The resume on Mack Brown starts with a national title at the University of Texas. And for all of the people who think that's easy, I haven't noticed anybody else in a while winning a national title down in Austin. That's first up. Secondly, he's gone back to North Carolina for a second stint, got them to the Orange Bowl about 18 months ago, has done a terrific job there. At one point was an ESPN color analyst, and I thought he was terrific at that. So, Mack, first of all, welcome. Give me your reaction to Watson being on television.
Well, Watson's been on television before, so he can handle that. It's he and his wife Brenda are kind of like Sally and I. Sally, my wife, says you can only have one ham per family, and Watson's the ham. So I think that's kind of what the Brown boys are. We've been living this for a long time. But congratulations on your guys' new show and being on TV, and you do such a great job spreading the word for people about college sports and especially college football right now. And it's so absolutely crazy out here. We need people like you who have spent a lifetime in this craziness to explain it to people, because it's really confusing.
I'm confused. So I'm not sure I'm the one to do it. But Watson, he's your brother. This will be me kind of shutting up and letting you all go at it.
Good. You got a question to start, or you want me to go?
You know, I will ask this right at the start of it. Mack, is this still as much fun as it was when you got your first head coaching job?
George, it's probably more fun because I know what I'm doing. And now it's about the kids. And when you first get started, you're all over the place and you're really not sure, and you got problems every day and you're miserable trying to solve them. And then you end up realizing that when it is about the kids, and it sounds corny, but you can actually change young people's lives. You still got to win to do it, but that makes it more fun. So these things that we're talking about with name, image, and likeness and transfer portal and realignment are all distractions, but you still got to go back to what you got in it for, and that's your love of the game, the staff that you love, that you all, the bond like you and Watson have now on your show every day, like we have with the staff members here. It's fun. And trying to make a difference in somebody's lives. And very few people ever get to make a difference in somebody's life. And George, the first year here, we had a friend's son kill himself up in the mountains of North Carolina. And he was 19 years old. He was a freshman at Appalachian State. He was doing great. Got himself at a bad spot and actually shot himself in the face and committed suicide. And I ran home and I told our team that you can't do it, man. It's selfish. If you get to that tough spot, talk to somebody, talk to us, talk to counselors, but don't go that far. Don't take that extra step. And we actually had a young guy come up in my office right after that and say, Coach, I was on a bridge 2 nights ago and I was thinking about killing myself. And thank you. I need help, and I need help fast. And now he's a screenwriter for Disney, and he's doing great. So if coming back to coaching, if nothing else mattered, George, from my standpoint, I feel like maybe we helped that young man on a day where he was really struggling to continue to go forward.
Wow. That truly is what it's all about. Watson, take it from here.
Mack, I was going to, of course, start with all this conference realignment, but I'm going to go second with that, because one of the things I wanted to ask you that bothers me is a little bit about what you're just talking about. This NIL thing, and where these kids now can make money from this and that, and from doing this on campus, that in town, whatever it is, really bothers me. I know that it's fair to the kids. I get that. The one thing as a coach that scares me is what I'm afraid, because everybody I'm talking to right now is saying, first thing they ask you is, well, how much money am I going to make? And to me, when I was coaching as a head coach, I can remember vividly at UAB, it was more about relationships when recruiting and then getting the kid to come. When we were at UAB, Mac, we couldn't beat Mississippi State or Southern Miss or Memphis or any of those schools with just our facilities. It was relationships, I thought, that we would develop in recruiting and then carry them right through the kids' playing time. I worry about that, Mac, going away. And do you have the same feelings I do about that? And am I on the right track here, or am I just thinking about a guy that's been out for 6 years now?
Watson, I think you're on the right track. The thing I have realized, there are some really good things about NIL, and you think that an artist on your campus can go sell his or her art and make money. A musician on your campus as a student can go play in a bar or a concert and make money. So the athlete should have a right to use their skills to make money. They're learning how to market themselves. They're learning how to make money. They're learning how to pay taxes at a very young age. They're learning how to step up for charities. Travis Shaw, highly recruited young defensive lineman yesterday, grew up in the housing project. His first opportunity with NIL was to go back and help that housing project. Sam Howell, our quarterback last year, his first opportunity with NIL was to feed underprivileged kids in this county. So there's a lot of positive things. The second part of that is we just had a young guy get cancer named Tylee Kraft, and he was able to go sell T-shirts, and there's a golf tournament for him so they can make money to help with that cost some. So those things are positive. What we did, Watson, is the leadership didn't have any guidelines. So we're the NFL with the certain amount of kids with no guidelines. We've got no guardrails. So Tom Brady can make a certain amount of money because of his accomplishments based on the NFL. We've got a young guy that can go right now to a car dealership and sign some pictures and sign some autographs, and they can pay him whatever. They can pay him $1 million just for an appearance. So I think the concept was right. And I do think that it's good that these young people have opportunities, but now we've got to put guidelines in place so it's not about them. The other thing, Watson, that's different is we hear about all this, whether it's 9.5 million or 8 million, or we hear about all that. 85 to 90% of your team's not going to make any money, or if they do, it'll be really insignificant. You're talking about the superstars. The thing I'm worried about is twofold. Number one, they say you're not supposed to use it as an incentive in recruiting. Well, it's being used for an incentive in recruiting. So that really concerns you that young guys are getting money in exchange for you coming to their school. And that's not what it was set up to do. And it is outside the university, but still those are incentives by boosters. The second part that I worry about even more, Watson, is we're seeing young guys being tampered with on campuses and them getting opportunities with other schools to make more money. So the player on your team now is getting a better opportunity and going somewhere else. So to me, we've got to get some guidelines like the NFL, and maybe it ends up being an offensive tackle's worth this much and a quarterback's worth this much, because the ones that are getting paid are basically professional players. We have no more amateurism with them. But the second part I'm more concerned about is we have a great player. We had 2 players on our team that people tried to get to leave because they were really good players, and both of them came to tell me, and it's hard to catch whoever's trying to get them. I told them, if a player texts you or a coach texts you or calls you, you screenshot it and get it to me, and I'm going to turn them in. But those are the 2 things I'm most concerned about, because the transfer portal makes them eligible immediately, and somebody can buy them off your campus and they go and get a better deal. And that's not the way this stuff's supposed to be set up.
Mac, is there any thought in your mind where everybody could make a certain amount when they come to your school, and then the big guys get the big bucks, but everybody, when you walk in, here's what you will make? Are we headed in any way in that direction?
Yes, I think that's absolutely where it's going, and I think it's headed that way quickly. First of all, Watson, since you've been out, now we get a cost of attendance for every player. So let's say that's $10,000 a year. And then the Supreme Court said, if you're going to pay them for name, image, and likeness, you've got to pay them for academics. So next year we'll give them $6,000 for academics. So above their scholarship, whatever cost of attendance changes some, but let's say it's $10,000. So for above their scholarship, they're going to get $16,000 to start with. And you and I got $15 a month. I know that's a long time ago, but that's what we got. And now Bubba Cunningham, our athletics director 3 years ago, said, let's give them all $50,000 when they graduate. Let's use it as an incentive and give them a bonus as they're getting ready to go out in the real world. Some teams now, and I think they're the ones that are doing it the smartest, are paying them $50,000 up front per year, and then allowing them to use their own opportunities if they're superstars to get some opportunities somewhere else. And then a lot of people aren't talking about it in recruiting because they know what they're going to get up front. And to me, that's where we're headed. But if you pay $50,000 for 85 scholarships for 4 years, every year you're talking about over $4 million. So that's a lot of money. And that's why people are talking about realignment. It's all about the money because things are getting more costly every day.
Yeah. And Mac, tell me if you do this. I've thought a lot about this. I would, if I was still doing this, I would not let my assistant coaches be involved in this at all. They couldn't talk about money when they're recruiting a kid. Is that what you do? Is that kind of the trend? Because I think that's when you're going to get jealousy in the locker room, everything. I just think it would be better if that coach, when he talks to the kid, is talking to him about being a kid and what you're going to do with our football team, what I can do for you when you get here as a football player, and stay out of the money piece. Is that happening, or are other schools letting their assistants get right in the middle of this?
A lot of schools are talking about it. The rule is that you can't. You have to have an outside collective, and that group of people in that collective are the ones that can talk to your players, and they have to go through them. I don't know how many players on our team are getting some type of opportunities through NIL. I really don't. I've got an idea because 2 of them came to ask me about transferring, but I don't know how many. I'm not supposed to know how many, and I'm not supposed to know how much. Now, what you can say is for players on your team, if a young man is an offensive tackle and he is talking about NIL opportunities, he can talk to someone on your team who's in that position and ask them what their situation is.
Yeah. And
the player can tell him. But again, I've told our players, and it hurts us some in recruiting. We've lost some players lately because we won't talk about it and we're going by the rules. But I've told our players on our team, this is really about your ball. It's not about your brand. And if you play well enough and you act right and you're working towards your degree, you're going to have some people call that collective and say, I'd like for Watson Brown's name to be involved with my business. So can you get him in contact with me or his agent? Because now they've all got agents. Can I talk to his agent about an opportunity to use Watson's name with my car dealership? Yeah. And then they let you lease a car for a year for free or something like that. And most of the opportunities they're paid per appearance. And that's what they have to do, Watson. So some people, let's say you're a guy's got a contract signed for $100,000 a year. And then he has to make 5 appearances to get those $20,000. Well, if he flunks out of school, he's not able to go to the appearance. If he opts out of a bowl game, he's not able to go to the appearance. So it's just getting more and more like the NFL. The other thing that's going to come up here in the future is some people are offering these guys money, and they're not going to have it when they get there, and they're not going to pay them. And we're going to see lawsuits and a lot of unrest in that locker room. Secondly, I know that we're going to see players that are given incentives to come and they get the money, and then they don't play well or they get hurt, and they're not going to renew that contract. So if that contract's a 1-year contract and he doesn't do well, they're not going to pay him because the boosters that are paying that money aren't going to be happy with him not playing well. So there's a lot of navigating through this stuff and a lot of confusion that we're all having to deal with. What I'm trying to do is tell them your best incentive for your NIL deal at North Carolina is get your degree. We'll get you internships. You learn how to make a great living when you get out of here, instead of asking for $50 or $100 or $200,000 up front. That's your best deal. And what we've got to do, Watson, it makes it tougher. We've got to find those families and those kids that still care about education, that want to come to North Carolina, because I really believe they're still going to be the ones that are going to play the hardest on Saturday. And if you get a locker room like you're talking about, he's making 50 and he's making 100. Well, how much is he making? I don't know that they're going to be focused enough on football to do what you want to do as a coach, because we aren't the NFL. We've just got we've got a worse model now than the NFL. We're going to have to learn from the NFL and do more of what you've talked about. And even if the positions are slotted, if they're going to pay an offensive tackle $50,000 more than a running back, whatever it is, we've got to get some people involved to get some guidelines and guardrails so we can get back to thinking about education, thinking about the great game of football on Saturday, and not just talking about the money. And I will say we've probably lost 3 or 4 kids this year. We've lost more as transfers, because a lot of people are offering them money because they're already there and they're proven products. But we've probably lost 2 or 3 really good players as high school recruits. But the large majority of our team and the large majority of our recruits have never even mentioned it. And that's pleasing to me.
Yeah.
Watson, let's step in here. We'll go to the break, and then part 2 of Watson Brown with North Carolina football coach Mack Brown. Incredible stuff. I knew it would be. This is the George Plaster Show on Main Street Media TV. Watson, the floor is yours.
Mac, we got about 10 minutes, I think, left here, and I want to go back when I can to the portal. But first, with all of that's going on, that's so new for us, and all this league stuff, and I've felt for a while, Mac, it is about the dollars. You hinted to that just a little bit ago on paying your players and having the money to be able to do this, and when we've watched Oklahoma and Texas, and both of us have been at both of those. I was at Oklahoma, you were at Oklahoma and Texas. We understand the history involved in those 2 schools. And to the old Southwest Conference, that when you were at Oklahoma and I was in it at Rice, and then the Big 12, where you went against Oklahoma every year, and usually the winner gets a shot at playing for the national championship, and then to jump to the SEC and to leave everybody like that, and then to turn around and watch UCLA and Southern Cal do the same thing. All the talk now about 3 or 4 of you guys, you're one of them in the ACC. It's all about dollars. That scares me. I understand there's a big difference, Mac, in 60 million and 105 million. I get that. Where are we headed, Mac? When is it going to stop? And what do you think is best? Not to put you on the spot, not to try to get personal with North Carolina, but what do you think's best for college football, and where are we going to stop this train?
Well, I sat there and watched Texas and Texas Tech and Oklahoma State get really, really close to going to the Pac-12. I mean, it was down to the last day. I thought we were going. We'd set up recruiting areas, and we talked about how our Olympic sports would be able to travel back and forth, and you might not want to play at Washington and Washington State on the same year. You'd have to play one at home and one out there. And then ESPN came in and started a Longhorn Network for $200 million, and we all stayed. And then I saw A&M and Missouri just get up and leave right after that, and Colorado and Nebraska had left, and then you start looking at holding your league together. And I think the numbers would be similar to 31 million here as compared to 95 or 105 that they're talking about with the upgrades or the renegotiations of the TV contracts over the next couple of years in the Big Ten and the SEC. So I don't know, Watson. I've tried to really stay out of it. I do know what because I was very involved at Texas, and then we worried about it, and we thought about it, and we had all these different scenarios, and then one day nothing changed. We just went back to the Big 12 and played the same team. So I do know we've got to coach our team hard and get ready to play, because I know who we're going to play on August 27th. And that's the most important thing to me. The other thing that I would share with our administration is it's not my opinion to stay, whether we go north, whether we go south, whether we've got options. All I want is what's best for our players and our staff. That's it. And I don't care where we go. I do want to be able to pay our coaches and our staff members as much as we can. And I do want our players to get every benefit that every top football program in America gets. And that's really it to me. That's whether you stay or go, I'm not going to be asked, but even if I was, I wouldn't know what would be best. And there are there's so many rumors out there. It's just like NIL. Are these kids making all the money they say they are? Some of them aren't. I had a guy sit in my office and say, "Coach, I've been offered $350,000, and he was a recruit, and I thought he was an okay player. And he said, I've been offered $350,000 to take it. And I held up my phone and I said, let's call him now, man. You ought to take it. You need to get it before you get out of this office, because I'd hold them to that if they offered you that much. So I'm not sure where things are going. I'm not sure what it's going to look like in 5 years or 10 years. But I do feel like we can't lose sight. People are getting frustrated with realignment. They're getting frustrated with NIL. They're frustrated with the transfer portal. I think we've got to make sure that we keep the most important thing in front of us, and that's the players. And if we can make sure that they've got good mental health, because I'm worried about mental health with all these extra burdens on them. There's more mental health issues than I've ever seen before. So let's take care of the players, and then the rest of it takes care of itself. Everybody going to be playing somebody. And the only difference is in certain leagues, some people are going to be making more money than others. But if you're playing somebody that's making all the same money you are, it's going to work out anyway. So I've really gotten to a point that I'm like everybody else. I've just got a little enough information to be dangerous, and don't know what's going to happen. Don't know when it's going to happen. Don't know if it's going to happen, but I know who we play in the opener, Watson, and we weren't very good last year. So I'm totally focused on trying to get us ready to play that opener.
I believe me, and I don't miss that feeling.
No,
You can have it, brother.
Yeah,
you can have it. Now, I will say I miss the excitement of the preparation, but the thoughts of course, I opened with Alabama my first game at Vanderbilt. That wouldn't have been one I would have picked to open with. But
no,
Mack,
but Watson, let me make one point before we go on. I know we're short on time here, but most of your guys at Vanderbilt wouldn't have asked for money. They came to be at Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
They came because of you, your relationship. They came to get a great education, and that's who we are. That's what we're dealing with. So that's why I think we've got to be careful and not let what's happening with a few change our view of a wonderful sport and these great kids that are playing this sport, and let it get out of hand.
Mack, we both have worked a little bit with ESPN, and they seem to be controlling the deal here with the contracts all coming up. Are they trying to get, do you think, just an opinion, are they trying to get it within two leagues and put all the money in that and put very little then in what's left in the Power Fives? Do you think that's what they're up to? Or you like me, you're really not sure?
I'm really not sure. I think it was the president or chancellor at LSU, maybe 2011, said at some point there will be two leagues, Fox and ESPN.
Yeah,
and we're kind of headed in that direction.
Yep.
I do know that you and I loved our time with ESPN, and they were great to us, but they're business people.
Yep.
And that's their job. And their job is to get as many eyeballs on TV games on during the week, college football games, as they can possibly get. So when people say, well, they're doing this or they're doing that, no, they're doing their job. They're trying to get as many attractive games as possible. And that's why even in our league for next year, Watson, we're throwing out the 2 divisions so we can match better teams up to get better games for TV. I mean, so it's all around us, and everybody is trying to be marketable enough to have somebody want to pay you more. And then you've got more money that you can spend. One of the worst things right now that's happening, athletics directors' jobs are tougher than they were with all this stuff going on, obviously. But then other things happening is we're calling boosters and saying, help us raise some money to pay our coaches more. Help us with facilities. Oh, you got to buy season tickets. Well, you've been donating this to our Rams club every year, so you got to do that. Oh, by the way, I need another check for NIL. Yeah. So we're beating our boosters down so much, they're getting tired. I call them now and they say, how much you want? They don't say hello. And that makes it tougher too. And they're right.
About a minute. Where are you with the transfer portal?
I'm okay.
Scares me. Are you okay with it?
Yeah, I'm okay with it. Joe Burrow would have been a high school coach in Ohio and a third-team quarterback that hadn't happened. So I always thought it was good for the backups. If they weren't happy, get your degree at your place, then go play a couple of years. I don't like people being able to tamper and buy people off your campus. That's not what it was for. And I don't like kids quitting in the middle of the season, Watson. So I think you're going to see guidelines that it's going to be 5 days after their last game before they can enter the portal. I had a guy leave last year at midseason. He walked in his about 7th game or something, a little after midseason. I said, where are you going? He said, I'm not playing very much and I'm tired. And we're practicing this morning. I'm just not going to practice. I'll get in the transfer portal. And that way everybody will know I'm there. They'll hold a scholarship for me and I can go visit some places. So I think you're going to see that stop. And I think you're going to see it much more difficult to transfer within your league because that's not good either. You're talking to your buddies across town, your rival, and 3 guys want to transfer. I mean, they don't like you anyway. So you don't need to add that to it. But I think we can get the transfer portal where it's more reasonable and manageable. The NIL needs to be the one that we pull back in. And there'll be less traction with the transfer portal when we get NIL straightened out. And the last thing, guys, and I'll get off because I know it's quick here. The other thing is 40% of the kids that I think didn't find a place to go that got into the portal. 40% of the kids jumped in and don't have a scholarship. So we're going to see that number, Watson and George, really cut back every year when they realize it's not always better out there. And some of those people that say, hey, Watson, transfer, man, I got something for you. Well, we filled up. Sorry. So they're going to find out that's not the easiest route to go.
I could listen to you all do this all day, but in all seriousness, thank you so much for being our first guest. This has been terrific.
Y'all have got a great show, and it's going to be fun for everybody to listen. And like I said, you can start putting some sense into this craziness. But let's all remember we've got a great game. These are wonderful kids and a lot of great coaches out there. And let's don't get down on our sport. Let's don't get angry and miserable over a few things that we've just got to get fixed. And sometimes it's easier to fix it when it gets awful. And right now we got a mess, and it's a great opportunity for us to figure out a way to fix it.
Amen. Mac, thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on. Love you, brother.
See you, brother.